Here we are again with Katawa Shoujo, now on part 5 of the series, still in Act 1 life expectancy. So let's continue. During afternoon classes, the long-haired girl comes back and sits down in her seat without a word. Again, no one seems to notice, or if they do, no one says anything. I want to ask Misha about it, but I don't want to be nosy. After school, Shizune and Misha quickly find me by the first floor lobby and latch onto me, covering each flank in case I might try to escape. I feel a little offended, but I've been considering it. Nevertheless, I'm a bit disturbed that enough people have made a break for it in the past that they're on their guard. What's with the escort? This doesn't make me feel very comfortable. In fact, it makes me feel like a dangerous prisoner being transported to his cell. Wahahaha, what's wrong, He-chan? That's right, we're just going to play a game of Risk, remember? I don't know, Misha, this all seems a little sinister to me. I start thinking that when we sit down to play the game, they'll tie me down and torture me until I agree to join the student council. Well, that's highly unlikely, but still, for some reason, it just seems like it would be so plausible. Getting to the student council room is as simple as turning 2 corners from where we started. What? That's it? This makes you guys being on top of me seem a little silly. That's not true, He-chan. She-chan says that when their life is threatened, people have shown the capability to pull up superhuman bursts of speed. Life is threatened? Her expression unchanging, Misha signs something amusedly to Shizune, who makes a baffling face and puts her hand behind her back, looking pleased with herself. Misha feigns deafness and hums cheerily. Stop that, I know you heard me. You have no excuse, unlike Shizune. Shizune opens the door to the student council room. It's a very plain, sparsely decorated room, although it is quite large, maybe even a little larger than a classroom. There's a big table in the center surrounded by chairs, and a smaller desk prominently placed in the back that I assume is Shizune's. There are a few regular desks and chairs stacked to one side as well. Extras, perhaps? Aside from the tables and chairs, the room doesn't have much else to offer. Just a couple of filing cabinets and bookshelves stacked with old school records and documents. Not much else. In fact, nothing else. This is a pretty bleak room. They could have at least put a potted plant in here or something. But the most noticeable thing that this room doesn't have is other people. Are we early? Nope. What do you mean no? Does it mean nobody else is coming today? Yeah, that's right. Before I manage to ask why that's the case, Shizune claps her hands together very energetically. He-chan, let's play Risk. Come on, you promised, didn't you? You have to. Hahaha, okay. Do you want to know the rules? We can explain to you while we set up everything. While Misha is talking, Shizune takes out what looks like a board game from behind one of the filing cabinets and throws it on the table. Actually, this looks kind of interesting. After Misha spends a little too long, for her liking running through the basics with a somewhat vague and confusing tutorial, Shizune cuts in and declares the game has started with a decisive motion, slicing her arm through the air. Shizune's aggressiveness is rubbing off onto me. I start feeling more competitive than I intended to be when I agreed to this. Halfway into the game, while I try to ponder how to defend against Shizune's assault from 2 fronts, she breaks my concentration by drumming her fingers on the table to get my attention. He-chan, Shi-chan wants you to know that you're taking too long to make a move. Shi-chan also says that she will let you keep Australia if you agree to join the student council. I thought this was a game with no strings attached. Just the fact that she will dangle that over my head as an offer means that she knows that I care about the outcome of this game. And anyway, no. Shichen admires your fighting spirit and would be a benevolent dictator who will spare your people if you agree to join the student council. Ha 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 ha. You're so competitive, Shizune. She seems to take this as a compliment. I would expect the student council president to be a little more magnanimous. Magnanimous? He doesn't seem to know what that word means or how it's signed. Shizu pulls out a piece of paper and writes it for Shizune, who in return signs it back to Misha. Misha presses her index fingers against her temples, as if trying to physically imprint the word into her memory. Suddenly, Shizune bursts into a flurry of gestures. Misha looks daunted by the pace of her heated signing. Wait, please slow down. Shi-chan. He-chan. Shi-chan says you're going to lose. Till I will crush your world empire with my rebellion. Okay. Those eyes of hers shine with childlike mischief. She says, you have no choice if you keep playing like this. No, you won't. Okay, we have two choices here. I can say she has a point and attack aggressively, or I could say the trap and it's smarter to play defensively here. Shizune seems to like being aggressive, so let's see about trying to counter that while also being aggressive. So let's say she has a point and attack aggressively. She's either really mocking me or trying to trick me. I have nothing else to lose, so I might as well try something different. Maybe if I spread out my forces and try to control more territories, I can recoup the advantage. Shizune seems to focus on conquering whole nations, so maybe I can sacrifice my hold on continents to gain more small countries. It's worth a shot. A few turns later, I end up losing the game anyway. Shizune adjusts her glasses victoriously and now allows herself to tentatively pump a fist in the air in a celebration. I win, yay! There's no need to translate that, it was pretty clear. Wahaha, don't look so sad, Hichem. You were really giving it your best, that's what I thought. Sometimes your best just isn't good enough though. If anyone knows that, it's me. You did very well for someone who just learned how to play today. Hichem, you attacked Iceland and North America at the same time. This is a very daring move. Shi-chan is impressed. The mark of great people is that they are daring, and that they can follow through. You're already halfway there. Isn't that great, He-chan? That isn't enough though. Just potential isn't enough. There's no point to potential if you don't take the first step, and there's no point to that if you don't keep going. I want to see more. You're right, Shi-chan, but that's so demanding. Shizune leans forward, suddenly looking a lot less playful and more like the serious person I expected her to be from the start. Hichem, would you like to join the student council? She really doesn't waste any time, does she? But it's only my second day of school, so I'm hesitant about committing to something so early. I haven't even taken a look at any other clubs yet. But spending time with Shizune and Misha doesn't seem like something I would hate. I still need more time to think about it before I decide for sure. Maybe. I'll get back to you on it. Okay, Hichem. But I hope you're not just saying that so we don't feel bad. No, really. Really? Hichem, if you're going to say that, you're saying that it is definitely the truth. And there can't be any mistaking it. I know. I guess I should have my revenge for losing, at the very least. Shizune smiles at that in a mischievous way that feels like twisting the knife in the weenie of my loss. I take a glance at the clock on the wall and realize I spent far longer playing Risk than I expected. Sorry, I think I have to go. I want to go to the library. It's not closed yet, is it? Shizune scratches her head and gestures at Misha. How hard can it be to determine whether the library is open? There's a clock right there on the wall. It should be, unless the librarian is absent. I think you're right, Shi-chan. We think the library is open? It's on the second floor. Can't miss it. Do you want us to show you where it is? No thanks, it's okay. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. One flight of stairs up and I run into problems. The second floor hallway is a carbon copy of the third floor one. Wide, of course, and plain, like only hallways can be. The problem is that the library's whereabouts are not as easily determined as one would think. The classrooms are marked with signs stating which class they belong to, but then there is a plethora of other unmarked rooms. Is the library one of them, or is it just somewhere down the hallway? I bet on the latter and choose my direction at random. After I turn around the corner, an unmarked door draws my attention because it's not closed. It's not open either, just barely ajar so that I can see it's open and nothing else. It would make sense for the library door to be invitingly open, and while this one is not quite that, it's good enough. At the very least, it means that someone else is inside, and I can ask for directions, no matter how embarrassing that is. I gingerly push on the center of the door with my fingertips, every muscle in my arm ready to pull back at a moment's notice. The feeling of being an outsider to the school can't be shaken from my mind, so much so that I instinctively fear doing something wrong by entering. The door slowly creaks as if groaning from a deep sleep, though it's much easier to open than I anticipated. Leaning over and poking my head ever further inside to gain sight of the room as fast as possible, the meek hello on my lips is quickly snatched away. This is not as I was expecting. I mindlessly let the door open to its full extent, taking in the sight of the solitary figure taking center stage in the otherwise abandoned room. The situation steals my voice, leaving me stranded, standing at the doorway staring at the beautiful girl. Evidently having taken her time to assess the situation, the girl gently puts down her teacup and opens her eyes, but doesn't look at me. Hello there, may I help you? Staring directly in front of herself, the movements of her lips seem to break the silence rather than the words. However, it's the soft, measured voice that reminds me she's a being separate from the room itself. Not only is she likely the tallest girl I've ever laid eyes on, but even among the foreigners I've met, she's strikingly distinct. Hi, sorry for intruding. I was just kind of lost. She takes a moment to formulate a response before speaking. Every action she takes feels as if it's carefully choreographed beforehand. Care to take a seat? Unexpected, considering that I'm intruding upon her. Thanks. I slowly step towards another seat opposite of her. The girl resting the teacup and saucer on the wooden table in between. The way she doesn't track my movements with her head is telling that, and the slight cloudiness in her eyes means she must be at least partially blind, like Kenji. Come to think of it, her voice doesn't have any detectable accent either. I guess she must be half Japanese. As I take my seat, her composure takes me slightly off guard. Her air of relaxed confidence makes the silence entirely comfortable. The calming atmosphere is so very different from the student council office. I take it you're a new student to Yamaku? Yes. I just transferred in yesterday. I get the distinct feeling my speech patterns don't match the formality of hers, accentuated by her restrained bow of greeting. One which I hasten to match before realizing the futility of the action. I'm Lilly Sato, pleased to meet you. Hisao nakige. She gives a nod before gesturing roughly in the direction of her teacup. Would you care for a drink? Sure. As much as it pains me, I can't keep step with her formality in the proceedings. She gives a kind nod, taking the request in stride. Without another word, she steps off the chair and prepares a second cup of tea from a collection of supplies laid out along a shelf. A brush here, a brush there, her left hand often lightly touching the side of whichever container she's pouring into. It seems to be a process she's followed dozens of times before. As I lean sideways to see around her back, she seems to use her long, dainty finger to measure the right amount of water in the cup. It's one thing to see the different disabilities the students in my class have, but it's quite another to see how everyone seems to adapt. Shizune and Misha have no problem working together to communicate to me, and Lilly herself seems to have workarounds for problems I never thought of. While I feel slightly guilty about her doing the work, she seems pleased to be following the correct process of the offerer preparing the drink. So, her soft voice brings me out of my silent observance. Which room were you looking for? It's not often this classroom is visited after school. The school library. Shizune and some classmates told me it was on this floor. She finishes pouring water into the teacup as she nods. A small metallic tapping coming from the teacup indicating it being stirred. I'm aware of Miss Hakamichi, as most students are. To be with them means you're in class 3-3, no? That's right, in the science room with Muto. She gives a small giggle before setting down the teaspoon and slowly walking towards the table, teacup and saucer in hand. He's quite a character. I imagine you'll come to like him. Most do. As she sets down the tea, I gently take it and have a sip. I'm really more of a coffee person, but this seems like a rather bad moment to bring it up. Nonetheless, the smell is quite nice. I hardly think it'd be hard to choke it down. Thanks, Sato. It tastes really nice. She smiles and quickly waves her hand in front of her face. Lilly, please. There's no need to be too formal. She says this in spite of her exceedingly well-bred speech. Oh well. I guess I should try and ask her about herself, as it really does seem as if she's catering to me. So, which class are you from? I imagine it's one of the third-year classes? Correct. I'm in class 3-2, which is on the third floor, same as yours. It's taught by Miyagi, and is specifically for both blind and partially blind students. I see. Sorry. I feel like slapping myself for the faux pas. Looking at her face, though, she doesn't seem in the least bit put off by it. My, there's no need to change your speech on my account. Sure, sorry. I guess I'm really showing my newness here. An environment like this will be a big change, so I can't fault you for that. While the same can be said for everyone, many have come to terms with their conditions. A category which would include her, it seems, all too ready to jump ship from this particular topic. I segue into another. Do you come here to drink tea often? It's a really nice place. Thinking on it, this might be her version of the place behind my school that I like to have lunch at. I come here fairly often during lunch times. My duties as class representative don't leave enough time for an official club, so a friend and I use this room for having tea. Class representative, huh? Compared to Shizune, her mannerisms seems to be almost completely opposite. While Shizune's blunt and fiercely driven, Lilly seems relaxed and calm, almost aloof. Come to think of it, she might be useful for a less biased view of the school's clubs. What kind of clubs are there to join? The more popular ones are the track and field club, which uses the field near the school during lunch times, the baseball club, and the book club in a room near the library. There are also numerous small ones too, though, such as the art and music clubs. At a time when I'm just wanting to get on my feet, rushing into a club right away seems slightly unappealing. I wonder if the school shares the same rule as my old one. Is it compulsory to join a club? It isn't, though it is encouraged. Ah, good. That's a relief. I've really let down my guard around this girl to let such a thing slip out. The fact seems to slightly amuse her. Not wanting my tea to get cold, I finally start drinking it as Lilly does the same. As I look over to the window over her shoulder, I notice the light coming into the room has a distinctly orange tint. Even here, time doesn't stand still. Huh, the time's gone quickly. Sorry? Right, she's blind. Of course she can't see the sun setting. It just looks like the sun's starting to set. It seems to come as a surprise to her. I guess she must have lost track of time. Sorry, Hisao. I didn't mean to keep you from the library for so long. I quickly moved to allay her concern. No, it's okay. The library is still open. Isn't it? She pauses and takes a moment to think on it. It's probably something I should have asked Shizune when I had the chance, but Lilly seems likely to know in any case. True, it's open until 6:38 during weekdays. A quick glance on my watch confirms I have well enough time to get there. I might get going in that case. It's been nice talking with you, Lilly. She smiles and gives a deep nod, her hands still neatly folded on the table in front of her. It was my pleasure. Oh, come to think of it, shall I show you to where the library is? I couldn't possibly ask for more help. I should be able to find it alright. Well, unless my navigational skills fail me, which they seem to have a habit of doing. It's alright, I was going to be talking to the librarian there in any case. I could introduce you. This gets better and better. It's pretty hard to deny her offer. If you're sure, then that'd be great. Thanks. As she stands up to follow me, she takes hold of a straight retractable cane that had been slipped in the handle of her bag on the floor. Compared to the cane the boy in my class had, Lilly's looks much thinner and longer. It's mostly for support, where Lilly's is for navigation. Together we leave the peaceful room and enter the empty hallway on the way to the library. Side by side, my pace carefully slowed to match hers. We slowly walk through the hallway. It doesn't take long for us to arrive at the door to the warm-looking room, apparently situated in the center of the floor, rather than either wing. Ladies first? She gives an appreciative smile at the gesture, taking the lead as we file in. Alright, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you for watching.